Share my screen. All right, so before I share my screen, I want to talk to you about this particular education piece because it's going to be more so driven on Donnie's formula of hot seats. And those that are familiar with the hot seats from the Bourbon Wednesdays, it's a little bit different. This more so is a hot seat that you're going to really talk about your current problems that you have in your company. And then you're going to put those in the actual chat box. And then we're going to actually have people to respond back with particular solutions. So this education piece is going to kind of bridge the two gaps between them. So ideally, I want you guys to take out a sheet of paper. Ideally, if you have a notebook, this would be great. And I want you to fold that sheet of paper in half. And I'm sharing my screen now so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So on one side of the screen of the page, I want you to go ahead and put problems on the top left. And, I want you to number down the sides, essentially 1 through 12. And the 1 through 12, you can skip a couple lines in between because, again, we're going to write down particular problems for each one of these. So those that know, I'm a growth strategist and I use business model canvas, which is a great solution for this particular problem and understanding and how to identify the hot seat things. So the first one needs to be value proposition. The second one, unfair advantage. The third one is customer segments. The fourth one is your channels. The fifth one is customer challenges. The sixth one is customer solutions. Number 7 is key activities. Number 8 is key resources. Number 9 is key partners. Number 10 is cost structure. Number 11 is revenue stream. And number 12 is your goals. So you're thinking, okay, well, these are good general topics. How am I going to convert these into hot seats? So I'm going to show you guys live examples of what I'm talking about, and we could be able to zoom in and kind of see what these are going to look like. So with a value proposition, you want to make a clear statement to say, okay, it's difficult for me to state what services or how my services benefit my customers. So you're essentially trying to identify what your value is. And if you don't exactly know what your value is, then that's obviously a very clear problem. All right, so next would be the unfair advantage. I'm not 100% sure what difference makes me different or makes me unique from my actual competitors, right? Number 3 is my clients are diverse. I can't identify one particular group. I can't isolate who my actual segmentation is. And that's what we did with our 30-minute sessions, right? We were talking about who we're looking for. And ideally, we're probably looking for multiple people, but you have to be able to segment them. Your channels, I'm not sure what's the best channel to connect with my customers. Like that's a really big issue. Some people, they'll post all day on Instagram and not realizing that their customer avatars is really on LinkedIn or really on Facebook, and they're just essentially wasting their time on Instagram. Customer challenges, I'm not sure what frustrates my customer. Like you may have a solution, you may have a service, but does that service really help that customer? Is it really solving that particular problem for them? Customer solutions, you're not sure which one of your services gives the most value, right? Your key activities, I'm all over the place. I need help planning out projects based on priority. Key resources, we do everything manually. I need to automate. Key partners, I'm overwhelmed with work. I need more help. Cost structure, I need to cut back on expenses, but I don't know what to cut. I'm not sure where to cut costs. Revenue stream, I'm spending more than I'm making. I need to increase revenue. And last but not least is the goal. I want to scale to $7 million in the next 18 months, but I don't know how. Now, these are just examples. I want you to take each one of these examples or each one of these categories and write down a simple problem that you may have in your business. And you may not be able to do all 12 in this short period of time, but if you get 3 or 4, that's going to be great because then we can kind of put those in the box and then we can move to solutions. So when we're talking about solutions, what are some of the solutions for these problems, right? So if you're asking a question for someone and saying, okay, look, I don't know what my value is. I'm trying to figure it out. Well, the first person that you should do, and for me, I would then advise you for a solution would be survey your customers, audit your reviews, because those answers for your value proposition could be found from asking your customers, what did they like about your service? Or in their reviews, they're telling you exactly what they like in your actual service. Your unfair advantage, okay? So if you don't know what your actual competitors are doing, then a solution for that would be to get a competitor analysis. Or if you want to be more like a landmark in that particular industry, trademark, copyrights, patents, all of those will help you have an edge on your competitors. Your customer segments, you want to run a profit and loss report, right? And if you don't know what a profit and loss report is, that's a problem in itself. So you need to get with a CPA or get with an accountant, and you want to run these reports to figure out where most of your revenue is coming from. Once you could identify where the revenue is coming from, then you start looking at that customer avatar that's paying you, or those customers that are paying you the most frequently enough to figure out what are you delivering to them, why, and then try to figure out how could you get more clients or more customer segments in that space. The next is your channels, right? So you're searching for the current demographic reports. And this is something that anyone could do for free. You can go to Google and you could type in, hey, who is the ideal avatar in Amazon? Who is the ideal avatar on Instagram? Who is the ideal avatar on Facebook? And just by doing that, then you will really know, okay, well, let's say Facebook is age 25 to 65, predominantly 40% male, 60% female. If that sounds like your customers, then that may be a good platform for you. This is the first step that you need to do before you just post social media on random platforms without knowing who you're talking to, right? Your challenges, right? So another way to solve that, you're trying to figure out the frustrations of your clients, but you're not sure what they are, then just ask them, right? Or you can go and read the negative reviews of your competitors, which is essentially free. They're out there. You can go to Google and see all the negative reviews that you want for a competitor. And whatever that review is saying that's negative is much like a book review, then you want to create the solution for that problem. Especially if you go to a competitor and you see 3 or 4 or 5 saying the same thing. Somebody didn't return my call, or they dropped the ball. These are clear indicators for you to then create a service to get that actual edge on that competitor. Next is the solutions. You could survey your customers, you could run audits, and then you could also do email marketing, follow up with emails and ask your customers directly through the emails to figure out if your solution is fixing their problems. All right, you having issues with activities, create a to-do list, get a business coach. And I'm just trying to speed up so that way we can have like at least 30 minutes of time so we can actually do this exercise live. Next would be hire automation specialists, develop SOPs. SOP stands for standard operating procedures, and that goes hand in hand with your automation. A lot of times people are saying, I don't have time. I'm trying to figure out, I need to delegate, but you don't know how to delegate. The first step in delegation or automation is figuring out the steps and procedures to be able to do something at scale repeatedly over and over again. Next is key partners, right? So if you're overworked and you're trying to figure out what's the low-hanging fruit, right? So my solution for that would be outsource it to VAs or partner with service partners. Prime example, if I'm working with a client and let's say they want some websites and my team can't build the websites, then I'm going to then refer them to Brian to help Brian bring in, so that way my team could be freed up to take care of the actual project, which may be automation, but then Brian can then build a website for them. Going to the cost structure, this is another thing that if you don't have a CPA, you don't have an accountant, you want to be able to do this, right? You want to list out all your expenses, all your payments, all your billing, and you want to compare, like, what are you using? What are you not using? And the easiest way to do this would be to start with reoccurring things. So if you have an account that you're paying $20 every single month, first thing you want to figure out, when's the last time you logged into that account? If you have not logged into it in the last 30 days, then you probably don't need that subscription. Revenue streams and envision goals. I didn't get time to fill those out, but ideally with those could be a million different things. I mean, revenue is essentially going into growth strategies, going into scaling, going into supplying new products, new services, affiliate deals. There are a dime a dozen different revenue streams, and collectively the first 11, once these things are established, then you're on the right track to then get to your goal, which in this case would be $7 million. Do you have any questions?
I gotta wait for my head to stop spinning around.
I mean, that's a really helpful way to identify problems, for sure. Because I think that's part of the challenge. I mean, I definitely had some like business bad feelings earlier this week.
Mhm.
And not even knowing like what questions to ask. So this is a good framework for that.
So, I mean, with that, that's why I wanted to establish this first. And that's why if you guys show up tomorrow, I'm going to be able to give you guys the notebook in hand. So that way you can start, because again, you can kind of see, we went through the binary checklist, we went through growth strategy. The idea here is to build up all this different information into one source. So that way you can kind of go back to it very easily if you're going to a business coach. They're going to ask you these questions. So now you'll have that context at hand. you may be going to a strategist. Well, they're going to ask you these questions. So if you have that source in front of you, it makes it 10 times easier to regurgitate and then to move forward to scale and get your business a lot larger, a lot faster. Sully, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I think Molly has a question if you didn't see her little hand raised.
Hey, Molly.
I finally learned how to use the reactions after too many years. Yes, quick question. Would you just review the very first talking value propositions, and you said something very wise about questions to ask your customers as you survey them. Could you just repeat that for me, please? Because that sounded really, really clear, and I forgot what you said.
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I can definitely regurgitate it in another form, right? So it's when you're looking for the clarity of your value proposition, you can't figure it out. The easiest way to do that is to survey your actual customers or to audit your actual reviews, because your customers by default, if you made them extremely happy, they're going to be able to put those in some review form. It may be a book, it may be on Google My Business. Again, a lot of people get reviews and they share those reviews, but you don't really analyze those reviews. So if you're getting reviews, analyze them. And by analyzing them, you'll find the common denominator, which will then become your value proposition.
Something I did also this summer when I was working with my business coach was market research, really. So not just talking to my customers, but talking to people who could potentially be the customers I want to be working with, and going through a whole market research process of asking the same questions to them, collecting their responses, and then seeing if there were consistent pieces that were coming to the surface from everybody. It was really, really interesting process. We just lost essay. He disappeared.
No, it started raining. I had to get my plug. Cool. So the next part of this task is to then go into the hot seat, right? So being that now you kind of have an established visual of what the problems could potentially be. Again, you don't have to do all 12 on this call, but maybe you had an opportunity while we were talking to write down maybe 2 or 3 of them. The goal would be then to put these actual problems in the actual chat, and then collectively as a team, we would then say, okay, we think this would be a great solution. We'll pick one of them. And then if we have enough time, we'll go through a couple of them. And then each person will have an opportunity to say, okay, I think this would be a great solution. This would be a great solution. So ideally, you're getting solutions from a third-party person, from their viewpoint, and then you're collecting that data, and then you're going to take action on what you're receiving as a solution. Does that make sense? So who would like to be the first victim?
Okay.
So, and before we get to that, any last questions before I stop recording?
Mm-mm.
All right, let's do it.
Do I need my boxing gloves?